And welcome to the Security Guy and CIA Spy podcast. I am Robert Siciliano, and this is
Peter Warmka. How are you doing, Robert?
doing pretty good, Peter. Happy summer.
I thought we entered summer like about a month ago. With these temperatures, I was surprised that summer was only starting just on the 20th yesterday, right?
Yeah, yeah. Despite y'all's political beliefs, it's warming up.
Definitely is.
In New England, where I'm at, the Boston area, the striper fish are running. And I have a really good friend. He got me a striper yesterday. And I have a really good friend who fishes, who said that mahi is up here. And mahi is a southern fish. So they're here at a very warm climate. And we're seeing a lot more seals up here. And if anybody's been paying any attention to shark attacks in the nation, you'd know that Cape Cod, Massachusetts is one of the prime hunting grounds for sharks these days because of the seals who have migrated to Cape Cod because of the waters, and that sharks are up here. It's getting kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I just came back from I was in Miami on Monday doing a keynote presentation, and I got on the airplane to go up to Minneapolis thinking, oh, it's going to be a few degrees cooler up in the Midwest. And I got off the plane, I was like, what has happened? It was like 6 degrees warmer. It was a heat wave going through.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today, Peter? We got all kinds of interesting stuff to discuss. Hold on one second. I have been pretty freaked out by the attacks on our nation's water supply. How about you?
Oh no, this is really of concern because I mean, there's a lot of different attacks going on or potential attacks, but when it hits the water supply, this is something that can have devastating consequences for those individuals who would be affected.
Yeah, and that could potentially be everybody, right? So, right. Threat Post produced an article: U.S. water utilities prime cyber attack target experts. So there is a specific point in here. Environmentalists and policymakers warn water treatment plants are ripe for attack. Industrial controls governing water-related U.S. critical infrastructure are woefully underestimated as cyber attack targets. The potential for attack, says policymakers, is too great to ignore, with consequences potentially devastating to populations. So, for example, like in the Massachusetts area, we have the Mass Water Research Authority. And I think like the Quabbin Reservoir takes care of like 56 or 58 cities and towns. And if that was to be attacked in such a way where it was polluted, chemicals were induced into it, there was a mess. Somebody messed with the what is it? The SCADA, which is the industrial controls. Then they could release like all kinds of chemicals into it that would poison people, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then what? Now you don't have any actual running water that you could drink, cook with, shower. Now you rely on bottled water. And I remember in Massachusetts, maybe about a decade ago or less, one of those pipelines had burst that supplies water to all those 56 towns. And you could actually see a video of it. You know, they had a video of the actual explosion where it burst. And they had to bring in the National Guard to distribute bottled water to all those cities and towns. So it was a state issue. And when the National Guard came in, they deployed everywhere, like in Walmart parking lots. And I remember at one point, like the news showcased like a situation where there was a rush from people like rushing to get the water. And like you'd see people getting knocked over and like little ladies like getting their case of water pulled from them and stuff, like, ripped from their arms. And it was like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, the U.S. is like a banana republic. Like these people are knocking down each other to get water.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about this particular problem that we had was that you still had running water. You still actually had water coming in. So they had a backup pipe, right? So the water that was coming into your faucets was a little stagnant because it was the backup pipe, but you still had running water. And the thing about it was, like, if you had any common sense whatsoever, you just boil the water that was coming in. You had running water. But instead, people were rushing to Walmart parking lots to get free water from the National Guard, and in a panic, and didn't even think or know enough to just boil their water, which is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I had backup water anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another example of how woefully underprepared we as a civilized society are.
Oh, it's very true. And I think there's a lack of understanding about the nature of this type of attack or target. If we're looking at the threat actors out there, if we're looking at cyber warfare, our adversaries, whether it be Russia, Iran, China, or whatever country it could be, they're putting on the shelf different scenarios, different attack scenarios. We've heard a few in the past of probes into utilities, just probes without anything actually an attack necessarily taking place. But these are set in motion so that if there is a decision goes forward for actually launching a cyber war, they already have the plans on the shelf. Because it's just a little bit different than criminal groups might go in, and there's been a few of these reported, very few, I think maybe not all of them are reported, that have shut down systems for ransomware, for a ransom.
Right.
And probably the utility companies have paid those ransoms without it even coming public. But
Right.
the biggest danger here is the attacks that could take place by a state actor. And that could be like turning on a light switch, pretty much, if something were to happen, and it would happen across the country against a number of these at the same time, probably.
Yeah, we'd be screwed. So they say that in the article, water may be the greatest vulnerability in our nation's infrastructure, says Samantha Ravish, chair of CCTI. Much of the problem lies in how decentralized water systems are, she explained. Each of these systems operates in a unique threat environment, often with limited budgets and even more limited cybersecurity personnel to respond to those threats, she said. Conducting federal oversight of and providing sufficient federal assistance to such a distributed network of utilities is inherently difficult. So we really need to get our, SHI together. I, on my other website, safer.me, put together an article that y'all can access, Storing Water for Survival. It's a couple of years old, but, the article itself stands today, about how to store water, storage barrels, reusing your bottles, bringing water to a full boil. You can drink pool water, actually. It's not ideal, but it's doable. You need about a gallon a day. If you have dried foods that require water, you need water. And then if you go to Amazon, right? Hold on one second. Let me show you something. If you go to Amazon and you search water tablets, right? So you have options. This right here is something that you definitely want to get. So the potable aqua water purification tablets for $8.25. This is designed to basically purify your water. So if you get those 5-gallon jugs and you store them for a year or 2 or 3, you add these tablets to that water and it keeps it so that it's drinkable. So it eliminates bacteria, viruses, all that stuff. And everybody should have this. I at any given time have between 50 and 60 gallons of water at any given time that I continually recycle.
You need to have a little bit, not to be extremist, but a little bit of a prepper attitude regarding a lot of these things, because when it happens, if you haven't prepared, if you haven't researched this and prepared, it's too late. Everybody at the same time is going to be looking for everything, and You're not going to find it.
Right.
Here in Florida, for better or worse, we do have a little bit of a mindset when it comes to water, because of the hurricane season, and people will stock up on a number of these things in advance because we're a little bit more prone to those types of things happening. But I think a lot of people really don't think of this outside of the normal, hurricane season, that this could happen at any time, really.
Yeah. We're all about, preparation. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a full believer in that. And it doesn't take much, like $8.25, along with, gathering. Look at, those 5-gallon water bottles that you, like a Poland Spring water bottle that you would like put on top of a bubbler. You could buy those for $25 on Amazon, have them shipped to you. And if you have like a friend or a neighbor that gets water delivered to them, those water bottles, they don't generally recycle them, meaning like they throw them away. So like if you have a neighbor that like is throwing those things away all the time, get a few, because you just put them in your basement, put them in your garage, and for free. Like they're worth $25 on Amazon. So just grab a bunch, and I'm sure your neighbor will be happy to give you some.
Very good advice.
Yeah. And I'm, thrifty, right? So this one I kind of don't like a lot at all. It scares the heck out of me. CDC raises monkeypox alert to level 2, recommends mask during travel. So I'm wearing masks on planes still. CDC warns that the disease has been most prevalent among men who have sex with men. Okay. That's
that mask is not going to protect you from that then.
Definitely not, right? But like right here, like that right there is enough to say, yeah, I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is more passed through very close proximity and maybe contact with the skin or contact with fluids, right? Compared to something that would be like the coronavirus that could be airborne, and you could get that from a greater distance away from somebody. So I think the risk of transmission is so much lower, but I mean, those pictures look awful.
Yeah. So the World Health Organization, will include this link in the show notes, has all kinds of information about it. In this particular article, which was back the beginning of June, it says there was 21 recorded cases. I think that there is as many as 300 at this point.
Worldwide. Worldwide, no. In the United States, less.
Right? Is that worldwide?
I think it's worldwide. I think in the United States, it's like 18, 19, 21. But I could be wrong.
Monkeypox, U.S. Outbreak situation, CDC. Let's see if they have anything new. I don't think they have a running number here, but look, it's enough to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and to be aware of it, and not to say, oh, it can't happen to me. Because close contact, that means like bodily fluids, right? Mm-hmm. And bodily fluids are on doorknobs. Somebody sneezes, they touch a doorknob. They go to the bathroom, they touch a urinal or a handle. So wash your hands and don't touch your eyes or nose or mouth. Wear a mask, and yeah. So that's that.
I mean, we've seen, there's been an evolution of continuality of these sort of really bad diseases that are becoming, worldwide, and because of the globalization, these things can easily spread everywhere. And
right.
We got to think, okay, some of these are just naturally, develop and spread, or are we in an age where it's also, think about it, in the age where biological weapons can be produced and utilized at some point? Do we need to get into this mindset to be just more careful in general about how we conduct ourselves when we're out there in the general public, and executing these type of safeguards that we have over these past couple of years with COVID, right?
Yeah. So the Fox article goes on to say that while not to the level of COVID-19, monkeypox has spread across the globe out of Africa since March. Symptoms begin as flu-like and expand to the swelling of lymph nodes and a rash across the body and the face. Ultimately, painful lesions form on rash areas, leaving severe scarring. Cases of monkeypox have been reported in Europe, North America, South America, Africa, Asia, and Australia, which essentially is, there's like 5 or 6 of the 7 continents or whatever. Some cases are reported among men who have sex with men, so that's obviously an issue there. All right, so moving on, what to do when a cop asks to search your vehicle?
Very good question. Hardly anybody knows the answer to this.
So I read this article, and frankly, it's a little clickbaity, but it does have some good information in it. So even if you've done nothing wrong, you have plenty to worry about, and you do, because any sudden moves. Americans spend a lot of time in their cars, says Lifehacker. So it's not surprising to the police that pull over a lot of us. About 50,000 people get pulled over a day, about 20 million cars every year. If you've ever been pulled over, which I definitely have, and based on those numbers you probably have, how nerve-wracking the experience can be. Put simply, police have all the power in a traffic stop, or at least they want you to believe they do. So when a police officer asks if they can search your car, it's hard to know what to do. So basically, it goes on to say be polite. One of the most stressful aspects of a traffic stop is the power of disparity or the power disparity. While most police officers will conduct themselves professionally, it's paramount you not escalate the encounter by being angry or insulting. There are certain requests or commands you should absolutely 100% comply with. So number one, produce your license, insurance, and registration when requested. Obey specific commands. If the police officer tells you to step out of the vehicle, you do it. And that's pretty much it. It says there are also things that the police can do without your permission, like visually examine the exterior and interior or visually examine the exterior of the vehicle and examine databases to see if your car has been reported stolen or if the registered owner, presumably you, has any outstanding warrants. Visually examine the interior of the car. If something is plain in sight, like a roach in the ashtray or alcohol, the police don't need further justification to proceed to do a search or an arrest. So they really do have all the power. So ultimately, you just have to be polite and, don't be doing anything wrong. No sudden moves. That's a big one.
Right. Absolutely. But they can, when they can say probable cause, they can pretty much search anything they want. And a probable cause could be your vehicle matches a description of a vehicle that's been reported in a burglary in the neighborhood, right?
Right.
I mean, how are you going to refute that? Or, if they should come up with a probable cause like that,
right.
So
they pretty much can do what they want.
Right. And
Yeah.
you're right. The biggest advice here is just cooperate politely and avoid any sort of escalation.
I would say, looking at the past decade, I would say on average, I am pulled over biannually, once every 2 years. I kind of got a lead foot.
We all do.
Yeah, I kind of got a lead foot. And I do a lot of driving. So the more driving you do, the more you're going to get pulled over, So yeah, and what I do when I get pulled over is I actually have my hands on the steering wheel. So as soon as they pull me over, as soon as they walk up to the car, I put my window down immediately. I put my interior light on, and I put my hands on the steering wheel. So when they walk over, they see the interior light on, they see my hands on the steering wheel, and I don't do anything until they tell me to. So hands stay in the steering wheel, interior light on, and then I'll get license, insurance, registration, all that stuff. I don't want to be digging around while they're coming up to me looking for that stuff. I want to wait for them to, tell me to do it.
Right.
Because it's all about seeing the hands. They want to see your hands. Where are your hands?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And I don't envy them in their job, especially, every time they're stopping the car, their adrenaline levels probably also raised a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What can happen during this stop?
Yeah. What are they getting themselves into?
Right.
Does the person have a gun? Are they violent? Are they some type of an offender? So yeah. All right. So Peter, moving on. Last but not least, 7 NFT scams that could be targeting your brand or targeting you, or that you could get involved in. So,
Robert, what are NFTs? Not many people are familiar with those.
So not many people are familiar, agreed, but I think more and more people, it's coming up on their radar and they want to know what it is, right? So I did some research and The Verge talks about NFTs explained, right? So what is it? So basically there's, all right, what is an NFT? What does it stand for? Non-fungible token, right?
Not fungible.
And that doesn't make it any clearer, they say.
Right. It makes it worse.
Right. So non-fungible, more or less, means that it's unique and can't be replicated with something else. For example, a Bitcoin is fungible. Trade one in front of the Bitcoin, and you'll have exactly the same thing. A one-of-a-kind trading card, however, is non-fungible, like a one-of-a-kind baseball card. If you traded it for a different card, you'd have something completely different. So if you gave up a Squirtle, whatever the heck that is, and got a 1909 T206 Honus Wagner, which is Stadium Talks calls the Mona Lisa of baseball cards, then, you'd have one for the other. So non-fungible basically means it can't be duplicated. And even though these are digital, they are not replicable. So digital, you would think copy and paste. You would think it could be, multiplied. But that's actually not the case with a non-fungible token. So it's the digital version of, say, a Mona Lisa that can't be copied.
So it's like these are assets, digitalized assets,
Yes.
basically, right? Okay.
So how do NFTs work at a very high level? Most NFTs are part of the Ethereum blockchain, though other blockchains have implemented their own versions of NFTs. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, but it's a blockchain, also keeps track of who's holding and trading NFTs. So all that being said, more and more people are becoming victims of NFT type scams. And so this article talks more so from the B2B level of like how your brand can be targeted, but there's some good info here for consumers as well. So it goes on to say that NFT scams revolve around celebrity or brand impersonations, counterfeit NFTs, unprotected marketplaces. So putting aside the irony of relying on a centralized players like a marketplace to execute decentralized transactions, these third parties can also introduce significant risk. There are 200 different marketplaces for NFTs, fake platforms, untraceable payments, cryptocurrency scams, text or email scams. So for your consumers, be aware of, email, text scams where somebody's offering you an NFT for something specific. It's more than likely a scam. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in getting into the NFT game and maybe making a quick buck, I would suggest at a minimum reading the article from The Verge, doing your own research and not laying down any Ethereum or Bitcoin until you fully understand what is going on here and what the risks are. Like any investment, right? And we're not providing investment type advice here. With any investment, there's nothing guaranteed. And with these new NFTs, non-fungible tokens, even less so. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Peter. So what do you got going on these days?
Well, as I mentioned, came back from travel, and believe it or not, first time I had uninterrupted flights. The flights took off within 10 minutes of their scheduled time, and no problems with connections. I was amazed. First time in a long time. And I shouldn't brag about it. Knock on wood. I know a lot of other people that are listening probably haven't had those experiences because there's been a lot of flights that have been canceled. But yeah, I was down in Miami one day, and I had to be up in Minneapolis the very next day in the morning for a presentation. So I had these flights, and if they were going to be delayed, it was going to be a disaster. But fortunately, everything's worked out well. It's been nice to be in front of audiences and having that connection, speaking with them, and then later them coming up to during book signings and really engaging with them. I really love it. It gives me a lot of energy. So I look forward to additional presentations at conferences and training events. And I always want to keep on plugging my book. And I'm finding even companies. The book I'm referring to, Confessions of a CIA Spy, The Arts of Human Hacking. Companies, some of them have already even purchased these books to use as a training resource for their employees. So if you haven't picked one up yet, I encourage you to take a look at it because you might want to recommend it to family, friends, and or your employer.
Yes. And you could see me and my team online at protectnowllc.com. That's protectnowllc.com. Our e-learning is live. I am definitely flying and speaking. I head out again next week. I was actually part of the Memorial Day weekend. 3,000 flights were canceled, and I ended up spending an extra day in San Antonio, which wasn't the worst thing in the world. It was actually pretty good. Father's Day weekend, Juneteenth weekend, 5,000 flights were canceled. So, yeah, I feel your pain there. Yeah, anybody who's So last words, look, just be nice to each other, and stay safe out there. Peter?
Yeah, take care and look forward to seeing you next time, Robert.
And please hit the subscribe button. Thank you to all your new subscribers. And please, whatever platform you're on, please hit the subscribe button. And we'll see you again next time.